Two. Good.
A huge, aggressive hippo lived in this river. The terrifying scene left everyone too frightened to move. They could only stay perched on the tree branch and wait for rescue. It was soon evening. The boss also noticed that Rodrigo hadn't returned. He checked the tracker and found that the signal had been lost. Sensing something was wrong, the boss entered the park to search for him. Meanwhile, Sistine was still waiting for rescue on the tree branch. As darkness fell, everyone grew increasingly anxious. Mikey thought they should try to save themselves. Rodrigo agreed that it made sense. He remembered there was a tracking device on the speedboat. If they could activate it, the company would be able to find them faster. But the device had been submerged in water when the boat capsized. He wasn't sure if it would still work. Hearing Rodrigo's suggestion, Sistine felt they should take the risk and try. Dion came up with an idea. Hippos are terrified of heat. They could create a ring of fire using fuel. That way, the hippo wouldn't come near them. Plus, the ring of fire would serve as an early warning signal. If anyone was searching nearby, they'd be able to spot them. Sistine thought this was a good plan. They poured fuel and set it alight. While the ring of fire was burning, Sistine jumped into the water. But just as she surfaced, Sistine spotted Hannah. It turned out Hannah had simply been bitten to death. Sistine quickly found the tracking device. She brought it back to the surface and handed it to Rodrigo, although they'd been in the water for several hours. Fortunately, the tracking device was still working properly, and just as the tracking signal was activated, the boss, who was out searching, picked up the signal. Seeing that Rodrigo was in a nearby waterway, the boss assumed they'd gotten lost. He didn't notify anyone else and rushed over alone. Before long, the boss found the stranded group. Seeing that help had arrived, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. Rodrigo told the boss about the hippo incident. Upon learning that the group had been attacked by a hippo, the boss found it a bit hard to believe, but now wasn't the time to dwell on that. The boss transferred everyone to his speedboat and prepared to take them away first. But Dion was searching everywhere for her high heels. She still intended to file a complaint against the company. Dion even ran over and grabbed Rodrigo by the collar. However, just as Dion was in the middle of venting her frustration, the boss, who had turned away, didn't notice. As a result, the small boat hit a tree trunk and lurched. Mikey fell into the water. Just as the boss was about to rescue him, a huge head emerged from the water. Seeing Mikey get swallowed, everyone froze in shock. Unable to accept reality, Sally had a mental breakdown. Ignoring everyone's protests, she jumped into the water to search for him. Seeing Sally in a daze, the boss pulled out a hunting rifle loaded with 2 tranquilizer rounds. As soon as the hippo surfaced, he would fire immediately. However, after waiting for a long time, the hippo still didn't appear. Just as the boss was wondering what was going on, bubbles suddenly rose from the water beside him. Seeing the boss being bitten, Rodrigo grabbed the hunting rifle. He aimed at the hippo and pulled the trigger. It was only because Rodrigo fired in time that the boss wasn't bitten to death. Having regained his composure, he swam to the shore and tried to signal the others to row out and pick him up. But when Sistine turned around, she discovered that Rodrigo had stopped breathing. Upon learning that Rodrigo was dead, the boss was stunned. But before he could say a word, the giant hippo reappeared. In a panic, the boss pulled out the signal flare he was carrying. He shoved the flare into the hippo's mouth. The hippo, burned by the flare, fled in panic into the forest. So the 3 of them rowed the small boat away from the scene. But it was too late in the day for the boss to make out their direction. They ended up in a more remote stretch of the river. Sistine remembered that her camera had a night vision feature. She turned it on to see if she could find their way. Not far away, Sistine spotted a building. But the boss didn't recall anyone living nearby. Although they found it a bit strange, they didn't think much of it. Before long, the small boat reached the shore. But when the 3 of them approached the building, they discovered that it had long been abandoned. No one lived there at all. In one of the rooms, Dion found some documents. It turned out this had once been a hippo breeding facility. Hippos imported from Africa were bred here. Later, it was abandoned because the hippo meat wasn't of good quality. Upon seeing the documents, the boss finally understood. They had entered hippo territory, which was why they'd been attacked. Just as they were pondering this, a strange noise came from the backyard. Sistine turned around and discovered a baby hippo inside an iron cage. The baby hippo was pinned under a collapsed steel gate. No wonder the hippo was so aggressive its calf was trapped. Sistine tried to rescue it, but the hippo appeared nearby. Fortunately, the boss fired the last sedative dart, but the hippo still didn't fall asleep. The unlucky boss was dragged away by the hippo. Sistine tried to help, but Dion shut the steel door. Hearing the screams from outside, they both froze in shock before they could recover from their panic. The heavy steel door was forced open. Seeing the hippo come in, the selfish Dion abandoned Sistine and ran upstairs alone to hide. But the dilapidated staircase suddenly collapsed, and the unlucky Dion fell from above, landing right in front of the hippo, just as her sister was about to be eaten. Sistine noticed the fuel on the ground. She set the fuel alight, scaring the hippo away. Taking advantage of this opportunity, they escaped. Just as they were passing through the backyard, Sistine spotted the baby hippo again and wanted to go rescue it, but Dion told her not to meddle. Sistine, however, felt that the hippo's aggression must have something to do with the baby. If they didn't free the baby, the hippo would come after them again. Sistine went to the iron cage to free the baby hippo, but just as she was straining against it, the hippo from upstairs came downstairs. Seeing Dion, who had been killed in the collision, Sistine panicked. Not daring to delay, she lifted the steel gate. The freed baby hippo ran toward its mother, as if it had understood Sistine's intention. The hippo mother didn't attack either. Instead, she led her calf away from the scene. Meanwhile, a fire broke out in the park, and park rangers immediately rushed to the scene in a plane. Seeing the plane, Sistine scrambled up the metal cage. That concludes the 2026 thriller masterpiece, Hungry Hippo. Overall, the film's atmosphere is quite good. Alright, that's all for today's sharing. See you next time.